Hi, Annie and Luli. Today we're going to talk about invertebrates, and I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I'm going to make my face bigger as usual. Oh, wait. Okay. Okay, it's ready. Okay. So, as you know, God created a variety of animals, meaning that he did create many different types of animals: fish, birds, insects, lizards, cattle, bears. Okay, all of them are examples of the animal that God has created. Okay, and now you're gonna learn about different types of animal that live on water and on earth, and about animal things that are like animals, like amoeba and paramecium in all of these units. Okay, um, for the vocabulary today, we have carnivore, an animal that eats meat. Herbivore, animals that only eat plants. Invertebrates are animals that don't have a backbone, like insects, jellyfish, snails, spiders, worms. Then larvae, it's a worm life form in some insects' life cycles. Oh, this is wrong. Okay, this should be, a larva would be like this one, okay? But I think that picture shouldn't be there, so I'm gonna erase it. Okay. Then nympha, it's a part of certain insect life cycles where the young animal has no wing or reproductive organs, like this one here, nymph. Omnivores, animals that eat both plants and animals, like the bears. Pupa, certain insects have a form that it's between larvae and adults. So larvae, adult, and this would be the pupa, the cocoon in the case of the butterfly. Variety, different kinds of animals or types. Vertebrates are animals that have a backbone, like fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. All of them have backbones. Zoology, it's a science that study animals. And then we have the five kingdoms, okay? The five kingdoms are a way that scientists classify all living things, and we have talked about it before. Animals, plants, fungi, protists, that like almost all animals, they are able to move on their environment, and monorads, okay? About zoology, nobody knows for sure how many types of animals there are. So scientists have classified and named over 1.5 million different kinds of animals, but they believe that there are about between 2 and 50 million different kinds of animals. Okay, so every year many new kinds are discovered, named, and classified. And the study of animals, it's called zoology. And the scientists that study those animals are called zoologists. Okay, so animals come in many shapes and sizes. Most of them are really small, less than an inch long. Others are so tiny that you need a microscope, and others are really big, like the elephant and the giraffe and the blue whale. Okay, animals and plants depend on each other. We have learned about this before in the carbon cycle. Remember that plants depend on carbon dioxide from humans and animals and humans depend upon plants for oxygen and for food, and this is called the carbon cycle. Sorry. Okay, so also some plants depend upon animals to reproduce, like what happens, for example, with flowers and bees and insects or birds, that they carry pollen and help the flowers reproduce. Okay, animals are different from plants, obviously, because they can move around. Most plants are fixed on one place by roots or root-like structures, so they don't move. Okay, and then when classifying animals, you can classify them by what they eat. For example, you have herbivore animals that only eat plants. You have carnivore animals um, that eat meat, and then you have omnivore animals that eat both plants and animals. An example of an omnivore would be a bear. An example of a carnivore would be, for example, a lion, a dog, a shark. And a herbivore would be a sheep, cow, a giraffe. And then there's another way to classify animals, that it's if they're cold-blooded or if they're warm-blooded. Remember that when an animal is cold-blooded, it means that its temperature changes with the environment. If it's cold outside, then the cold-blooded animal is gonna be cold. If it's hot outside, the body of the cold-blooded animal is gonna be hot inside too. But then warm-blooded animals, like us, for example, humans are warm-blooded, their temperature stays the same even if the environment is changed. An example of other warm blooded animals are humans also, but dolphins too, or dogs, cats. And an example of cold-blooded animals would be, for example, reptiles or amphibians or fish. Okay? Okay, and then you can classify animals where they are vertebrates or invertebrates. Animals that don't have a backbone, they're called invertebrates. And the vast majority of animals are invertebrate. There are more invertebrates than vertebrate animals in the planet. Examples are insects, jellyfish, snails, spiders, worms, okay? And animals that do have a backbone are called vertebrate, like birds, fish, reptiles, and mammals. We have talked about this before, but it's good to have that review, okay? And then we're going to talk about the life cycle of invertebrates. Especially, we're going to talk about earthworms as an example, okay? So, invertebrates have life stages, like beginning, growth, adulthood, and end, okay? So, let me fix this, sorry, girls. Okay. Okay, so the earthworm has life stages too. They begin, they grow, and they become adults, okay? They don't have backbones, they are invertebrate, and they start their life as a tiny egg, okay? I'm gonna make this bigger, okay. They start their life as a tiny egg, and it grows, it reaches maturity, and then when the earthworm is mature, it can lay more eggs, okay? And then finally it gets old and dies. There are many types of worms. Worms have soft, slender bodies and no backbones or no legs. Okay, there are other types of worms like flatworms, ringworms, leeches, and they have a different type of life cycle, though they can lay less or more eggs or reproduce more time or less time, okay? Okay, so in the beginning stage, they start when reproduction started for the parents. So invertebrates can reproduce in one of two ways, either asexual reproduction or sexual reproduction. I'm gonna explain. In asexual reproduction, you only need one parent to produce a baby, okay? And in sexual reproduction, you need two parents, one male and one female, okay? Most animals and invertebrates reproduce through sexual reproduction. Okay, and I'm going to explain more about both. In asexual reproduction, only takes one parent to have an offspring, a baby, and it happens in two ways, either fragmentation or budding. And we have learned about budding before when we were talking about plants, okay? When we talk about fragmentation, it's used by vertebrates such as planarians or some other flatworms, some types of worms, okay? So a single parent usually divides into two pieces, one with the head, another with the tail. And then each section then grows the parts that are missing and becomes a completely new individual. That is crazy. It's like if you chopped my arm and then from my arm, it started growing a new person, a new body. Okay, that's what happens when we're talking about fragmentation in asexual invertebrates, okay? And then budding is when the animal produces a small projection called buds from its side. Hydras and sea anemones reproduce by budding. The buds develop into tiny copies of the parent, and eventually the bud grows large enough to detach from the parent and become a new individual animal. It's like, for example, if from my side, a baby was growing in my side, smaller, and then it started growing and growing and growing, and then when it's large enough, it just splits and go away and has its own independent life. Crazy, huh? And then we have sexual reproduction that is used by most animals and invertebrates. And it happens kind of like what happens with flower. You need a male sperm that unites with a female cell, an egg cell, okay, to produce a fertilized egg. And that fertilized egg, it's gonna start splitting through means of mitosis and start growing, okay? Usually it can happen inside a female body or outside a female body. Okay, so usually it starts with a single cell. The cell gets fertilized and then starts growing and reproducing. Okay, in the growth stage, if, for example, the cell is fertilized, let me see. If it's inside the body, then the eggs get outside the body now, and an embryo starts to form within the fertilized egg. So inside that egg, there's an embryo growing. That happens through mitosis. And then each fertilized egg contains some food for that growing embryo. This is the first part of the growth stage. And as soon as an animal can live outside the egg, it hatches from it, okay? And then other invertebrates go through different processes of growth after hatching from an egg. They are hatched in larva form, like what happens, for example, with a butterfly. You start with an egg and then you get a larva, like would be a caterpillar, okay? And then some of them go to a pupa stage, that will be like a cocoon for a butterfly, okay? And then some other invertebrates have a different process that it's after they hatch from an egg, the new invertebrate, it's called a nymph. A nymph looks like the parent invertebrate, but some parts are missing, okay? They are able to get their own food to continue growing, and as they grow also the missing parts of their body, okay? And then you get the adult stage, because we're talking about beginning stage when the cell is fertilized, then growth stage when the body starts growing. It can be a larva, it can be a pupa, it can be a nymph, and then you have the adult stage. It's reached when the invertebrate grows to full size and it's able to have babies. It's able to reproduce, and it looks like their parents, okay? The egg-laying female invertebrate may produce many eggs at one time, and most of the eggs may be fertilized by sperm from the male invertebrate, okay? Then the new eggs are deposited outside the body of the female if they were not outside, and the eggs hatch into babies and the babies grow. And then after you have an invertebrate that has grown, that has reproduced, it starts to get old and die, okay? It happens for few invertebrates because usually they die in one of the other stages because of the climate, because the weather is hard, because other animals eat it, okay? Some invertebrates can reproduce many times before they die, others just a few times, okay? But with time, they start getting weaker, so their life comes to an end and they die, okay? Okay, and usually God is so wise that he makes them lay many, many eggs, so even if they die, you continue having invertebrates, okay? And that would be it.